Good morning, everybody. It is the Ambassador coming at you with a brand new work video. And I know I've been doing quite a few of these the last couple of days and everything, but I actually kind of enjoy them. It gets me. I know I do quite a few at my home and everything. I do them in my study and everything, but I like to bring y'all with me to work. Makes my job a little more interesting. But today we're going to be continuing our The World Before It Went Woke movie review series, and we're going to be talking about Top Gun. And I already did a review on the Top Gun Maverick trailer earlier and everything, but I wanted to, honestly, why not? Have a nice little through line and everything for the videos I do today. For most of you who know, Top Gun was a very iconic movie of the 1980s and everything, and it was one of Tom Cruise's big headlining roles and everything that he did in the 1980s. Let's face it, Tom Cruise, along with a lot of other actors and actresses, they were big in the 1980s and going on all the way up until today. But this was one of Tom Cruise's big first early roles that he did, and man, did he own it. He played this guy, Tom Mitchell, who was an Air Force pilot. Now, if I'm mistaken, if he's in the Navy and not Air Force, then somebody please, by all means, correct me, but I don't think I'm too far off base here. But he was a hot shot, to not put too fine a point on it. And he was a ladies' man. He was kind of a wild one. Let's be perfectly candid here. But the man could fly. He was a top-notch fighter pilot. And throughout the course of the movie, you see a very interesting journey with Tom Cruise's character. Interesting. Tom Cruise, Tom Mitchell. Who knows? But anyway, what you get in Top Gun is a very interesting character study of the United States military in the 1980s and everything, and stuff that they had started to do to make the military better, particularly their fighter pilots. Because you've got Tom Skerritt's character, who is a instructor at the Top Gun Academy, which is a real-life organization. It's a real-life thing. It's not something they made up just for the movie. But the Top Gun Academy is where they send their best fighter pilots to train them in dogfighting technique and so on, and teach them to be better fighter pilots and everything, particularly in the U.S. military. But what you've got with Tom Cruise's story and everything is you've got this backstory that his father was a pilot and everything during, I think it was Vietnam, more than like, it was Vietnam. And there was some sort of scandal or kerfuffle and everything in regards to his father, and it painted Tom Cruise's character, Tom Mitchell, in a very poor light, unfortunately. And you've got his best friend played by Anthony Edwards, his co-pilot Goose and everything, and you've got Maverick and Goose, and then of course you've got a lot of good actors in this movie, because obviously you got Tom Cruise, you got Tom Cruise, Tom Skerritt, Anthony Edwards, Tim Robbins, Val Kilmer. There was one guy in this movie that I really like or anything. He's only in the movie for, I think, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and that's Michael Ironside. For those of you who don't know, he had several decent roles in the 1980s. He was obviously in Top Gun. He was in Total Recall. He was in part of the V TV miniseries, both parts, V the original series and then V the Final Battle. And I think he was in the TV show as well. He was also in Highlander 2, and so on. But this has a really great cast or anything. You also had Meg Ryan. This was, I think, was one of her early roles. You had Karen McGillis, who was the love interest for Tom Cruise's character, and she was also a civilian liaison between, I think, the government and the U.S. military, and I think in this case it was either the Navy or the Air Force. But what you get with this movie is Tom Cruise's character and his co-pilot and everything, Anthony Edwards, Maverick and Goose, they get sent to Top Gun. And throughout the process of their training and everything, Tom Cruise gets shaken, and unfortunately, there's an accident, and he holds himself responsible or anything for Anthony Edwards, his co-pilot's death and everything during a training exercise. And later on in the movie, he gets paired up with Tim Robinson's character. I think his call sign was Merlin. Yeah, because he had the purple helmet that had the stars and stuff all over it, kind of the astrological signs, whatever you want to call it. And they're in the middle of a very nasty dogfight, and basically Tom Cruise's character has frozen. He's lost his confidence. He's lost his ability to be a good pilot. And eventually he gets some sense knocked into him, and he comes up in the clutch and saves everybody, essentially. Or rather, he doesn't save everybody, but he works with the rest of the pilots and everything to get through this big mission and everything that they're on. And that's basically the long and short of the movie. But kind of tying in with this other part of my video, this series I'm going to start and everything, The World Before It Went Woke. What you got in this movie, honestly, is a very good depiction of what the United States military was and what it is even to this day. And you've also got this depiction of men in the military who are depicted evenly and fairly. They're not depicted as overly aggressive. They're also not depicted as rather meek and weak and everything. But you also have real depth and real character to these characters. And honestly, I'm hoping that they don't do this with the sequel and everything to Top Gun Maverick. But honestly, I think what you have with Top Gun is just a very good, pure action movie that's got a lot of heart to it, that has a lot of interest in exploring what it means to be a pilot in the United States military, and showing that these guys are real, actual people and everything, trying to give some transparency and trying to give them some depth, some real life depth, and not some forced or cringeworthy characteristics that don't feel natural or organic. Because what you've got with Top Gun is you've got this depiction of these guys who are flying these fighters and everything, going several hundreds or thousand miles an hour and everything, doing all these dangerous maneuvers and everything in these dangerous situations. And you actually care about and you feel for the characters and everything, because what happens during the movie is you have this relationship between the characters and between the audience and the characters in the movie. And I think that's obviously that's something that's very common, but sadly that's something that's kind of been lost and everything in the last several years and everything in the movie industry. They give us these characters, but they don't give us any investment in them. We don't care about them. I think the best character development and character investment we've gotten in the last several years is with the MCU movies, with Tony Stark and with all the other MCU characters and everything, even some of the ones that aren't quite as well known or quite as popular. What they did is they gave these characters a lot of depth and a lot of development. And what you have in Top Gun is that you have that depth, you have that development. And it doesn't feel cringeworthy, it doesn't feel non-organic, and it doesn't feel fake and everything. It doesn't feel natural to the world that these people exist in. Because obviously in the Top Gun movie and everything, the first one anyway, and hopefully in the second one, they make this world feel real. This is real world. This has real stakes, and it doesn't feel forced or unnatural. But those are my thoughts on Top Gun. As I said, it's a great movie. I think if you've never seen it, you ought to give it a watch. And, excuse me, stiff back. Been busy this morning. But I think honestly, especially nowadays, movies like Top Gun are something that we need to revisit because they are entertaining for all walks of life, not just for Americans or anything, white males or whatever. They appeal to everyone. And that was the great thing about movies of the 1980s and even before. They appealed to everyone. They weren't trying to appeal to a certain demographic or anything of that sort. And Top Gun appealed to everybody. That's why it was so popular. It's why it did so well in the box office. That's why it has remained relatively well-known and popular and everything in our culture, even to this day. So if you've never seen Top Gun, I highly recommend it. If you have seen it and you just haven't watched it in a while and you want to get prepared for this new movie coming out next year and everything, I highly recommend go back and revisit the classic. Because honestly, Top Gun, it is a classic of the 80s, and it's one that it's a fun ride. It's got some great moments. It's got some very quotable lines. It's got, I think, one of the best soundtracks and everything from the 1980s because you got Kenny Loggins, you've got some great orchestral music in this movie and everything. Obviously, the effects hold up very well because there weren't any special effects necessarily done. This was all aerial photography that was done with these real-life airplanes and anything that were used in the military then and are still now, just maybe updated somewhat. So if you want a good picture of what life was like in the military and everything in the 1980s and most likely even now, I suggest you check out Top Gun. If you're new to my channel, I thank you for watching. I am glad you found me. These videos are what I normally do. I do reviews of movies and TV shows and other aspects of pop culture from the 80s and 90s. I am doing other content and everything, so by all means, check out my page or anything, my channel here on YouTube. If you like what you see, consider giving me a like and share this video with your friends. And if you like what you see, anything, consider subscribing because I post videos just about every day. I do at least a couple of videos every day. I do want to let y'all know I will be doing a live stream tomorrow, Wednesday, December 18th, probably around 7:30 or 8 o'clock Central Time. So be on the lookout for that. We will be doing a 100 subscriber plus celebration because I have broken 100 subscribers. And we are going to cover a topic and everything that is very near and dear to me and everything. Now, it doesn't fall within the 80s or the 90s or anything, but it is part of the pop culture landscape. And we're going to cover the Star Wars prequels. I know how some people have done this, but I loved the prequels. I had kind of a falling out with them at first. And no, my falling back in love with them is not because of the Disney trilogy. I honestly, sincerely do love the prequel trilogy. The Star Wars prequel trilogy, obviously, is what I'm talking about here. And I want to spend some time with y'all discussing it. I'm going to try and line up a couple of guests or anything to join me. So, until next time, thank you for watching. And this is the Ambassador, signing off.